Hi and welcome to techsith tutorial. Today we are going to learn different object creation patterns in JavaScript. What does it really mean? Let's say you have a class info and then you want to create multiple objects from the class. For example, here we are creating John's info, Peter's info, and Jill's info. In JavaScript, since there is no formal support of class, there are a lot of flexibility in the way we create objects. So we're going to look at this, how to do it. We're going to look at 4 different patterns: constructor pattern, factory pattern, prototype pattern, and dynamic prototype pattern. So first, let's quickly look at objects. Since JavaScript has no formal support of classes, we're going to create objects and then we're going to create other objects from that object. So let's first look at the factory pattern. So for that, we are going to use this wonderful website called jsfiddle.net. Here we're going to write our JavaScript in this lower block, and we're going to debug our code in console log. So let's first create the main object, which we're going to call a people factory. So the name of the object is people factory equal to function. So functions are the most suitable for creating other objects because they behave more like classes when you define like this. What are we going to do? We're going to create a temporary object inside this function people factory. We're going to call it temp, T-E-M-P, and it's an empty object. We can also call it like this, var T-E-M-P equal to new object, which is exactly the same thing, but we're just going to call this shorter syntax. Now let's add 3 properties to this temp. temp dot age equal to age. Now here we're going to pass 3 parameters: name, age, and let's say state. So temp age equal to age. Another property is name equal to name. Temp dot state equal to state. So basically assigning, we're creating this 3 property for this object, and we are taking this parameter and setting the property. So it's exactly like Java set function. And now we're going to create another a function here called print person. It's a function, and all it does is just console log. We're gonna print this entire object in one string. Name plus this dot age plus I forgot one plus here. This dot state. Now this also is attached to this function, this object temp. Now we can simply return this object. So now this behaves like a factory. This function behaves like a factory. Whenever we want to create a new person, all we have to do is we can say var person1 equal to, and we can call this function, and we're going to pass name, let's say we can say John. He's 23 years old and he lives in California, so CA, and this. So we created a one person. We can actually create another person called person 2. And this would be a female, Kim, and she is 27-year-old and she lives in SC. Now we can look at this by simply using the function print person. So I can say person1 dot print person, and I can also do the same thing for person 2. So using this factory function, I've created 2 person. Now, in order to look at it, I'm going to open the console up, click on the right, click on the browser. If you're using Chrome, you can simply say inspect element. If you're using Firefox and other browsers, there is a way to do it. I think you can Google, inspect element. I think Firefox is very easy, but I would suggest using Chrome for this. So now, if I just run this by clicking on this run button, it prints out 2 people, John, 23, California, Kim, 27, South Carolina. So this is a factory pattern. All we did is we created a factory function, and within this we created an object. We attached the properties to it, which are we passed as a parameter in this function, and then we return the entire object. So when I say person1, it's nothing but this new temporary object that is created. So because this behaves like a factory, we are calling it a factory pattern. Now let's look at another pattern. Now second pattern we're going to look at is constructor pattern. A constructor pattern is also very simple. Similarly, we are going to create an object called var people constructor equal to function, and similar to factory pattern, we are going to pass 3 variables, name, 3 parameters, name, age, and state. But instead of creating a temporary object, we are going to we're going to create property for people constructor function itself. Remember, functions are also objects, so I can actually add properties to it by saying this name dot name equal to name. So this name is actually a property of this function, and similarly I can create this dot age equal to age, this dot state equal to state, and also create a function called this dot print person equal to a function, and this does nothing but printing, called console.log this dot name plus, we're gonna stringify this thing, this dot age plus this dot state. Now, unlike the factory pattern, since we are not returning any object, we have to create other object from this object itself. So how do we do this? We have to use a constructor pattern, which means we have to use a keywords new. So we can say person1 equal to new people constructor, and here I'm going to pass those names. John is 23rd and he lives in California, and I can create another person 2. It's Kim and she is 27 and she lives in South Carolina. So the new keyword creates this new object called person1 from people constructor. So this behaves like a class constructor, and this is more like a Java where you create a constructor and basically create objects from it. So if I say person1 dot print person, and I can do the same thing for person2. And when I run this, I should get the same result. The problem with the constructor pattern is every time you create another object, for example, in here, when I create a person1, it has all of these. When I create person2, it also has all of these. And so if I create 1,000 objects, they would all have their own print person, which is redundant. So that brings us to our next pattern called prototype pattern. This is a very different pattern than the previous two. Here, instead of creating a function with properties and functions itself, we are going to create an empty object called people proto equal to function, and this is a completely empty object. So we are going to add properties and function into a shared space called prototype. Every objects get a shared space called prototype. Let's look at it. Method. There are two ways to create methods for your objects. So for example, here in this case, I have an object pizza, and I can attach get crust method directly to it, and it returns the this.crust. Or I can put this method into a shared area. In order to put it in a shared area, I can use pizza.prototype.getCrust. It does not, if you look at the object in a console log, you would not see this method directly attached to pizza, but it has access to it because it lives in a shared space. So for that, I can say people proto dot prototype dot age equal to 0. I can say people proto dot prototype dot name equal to no name. Here I'm creating defaults. And I can also say city equal to no city. Equally, I can add a function prototype dot print person So prototype also access like using this. So we can say console.log this.age plus this.name plus this.age plus this.city. Actually, I can add some space here, just like last time. So far, if you notice, I've created an empty object called people_proto, and I have added prototype properties to it, and I've added prototype method to it as well. And within the method, I can access these prototype properties using this.name and this.age and city. Now let's create our object from this prototype. So we can say var person1 equal to, we still have to use a new, just like a constructor pattern. But here we are just going to create very simple constructor with nothing in it. And we are going to attach properties to it one by one after the declaration of the constructor. So we can say person1 dot name equal to 23. Sorry, name should be John. Dot age equal to 23, and person1 dot city equal to California. So if I print this person, let's clear this, and I'm going to print this person. Let me clean this. So I've drawn 23 California. But something more interesting about this pattern is it has, initially I've defined defaults in the prototype, and actually I'm overriding this with the new values. So if I just comment the name out from here, and if I run this again, it will say no name. So when I don't have a name, it's using the default no name here. But when I activate this person.name, it would give me the property name from after I have created this object, which means the prototypes are being shadowed. They're still there, but they are being shadowed. Let's do something interesting here. If I write console.log, I'm going to write the name of the property, name, in person1. So I'm trying to see if name exists in person1. So the behavior should be yes, because yes, there is a property called name. So if I do this, it says true. Let's say if I comment this out, means this person doesn't directly have any property called name. It does have a property in the prototype, but it doesn't itself has a property name. So in this case, if I call it, it still comes true. Basically what it's doing, it's just looking for property in the object. If it cannot find it, it would look in the prototype space, and if it can find it, then it says true. If I could just create some other random, if I just give blob, and if I run this, it would give me false. Means blob doesn't exist in person 1. But age does exist, so it gives me true. So this way we can find out if it has property for the object, either for the object or in the prototype space. But what if I need to know to see if it's really inside here in this object? I don't really care about, because prototype could be just default. So for that, we can say console.log person1 dot has own property, and here we're gonna pass name. What it means is find out if person1 has its own property. It does not care if you have a property in the prototype. It has to be within the object. So if I click here, if you look at the first item, which is age in person, is coming true. I should say name. Let's say if I do name in person and run this, let me clean this up and then run this. So name in this person 1 is true, but person 1 has own property name is false. Now if I uncomment this out and rerun this, I would get both true. So this is how you find out if an object has property inside the object itself or part of the prototype. And the advantage of the prototype pattern is, as you can see, the function print person is part of the prototype space. It means it's not added directly for the person 1. So the person 1 is very lightweight, and I can create 1,000 objects from people proto, and they're all going to be lightweight. But there is still a disadvantage with this, and the problem is that as you can see, you have to first create an empty object and then add properties to it. You cannot create everything in one line. So that is a disadvantage. And also, if you have a property as an object, it creates a confusion when you create multiple objects from it. So for that, the next pattern we're going to look at it is dynamic prototype pattern, which is a little bit of change in a prototype pattern. So instead of writing complete from scratch, let's just modify this to make it a dynamic prototype. So here I'm just going to change the name first. Dynamic proto. Again, instead of creating an empty function, I'm just going to directly write here name, age, and state. This is just like a constructor pattern. And the property I'm going to directly assign to in here. So this would be this dot age equal to age. This is just like a constructor pattern. Name equal to name. This dot state equal to state. And so we're not going to attach this property to the prototype. However, the function itself, we're going to do something different. So what we're going to say here is if type of this dot print person is not equal to function, what it's saying is, if I don't find this, currently I don't have this function called print person. I haven't added in here. So what it's saying, if I don't find this, then create one. But instead of creating here, create in a prototype space. So I'm just gonna copy the entire thing here. And instead of people proto, I will have to say people dynamic proto. So what it's saying is, we first add the property, just like constructor pattern, but we don't add the function here. For the function, we are saying that if I can't find this function, if I just print this, it would be like undefined. So if it's undefined, which is not a function, then create this function within the prototype space. Okay, so which means whenever, if I create an object first time, the first object I create from the people dynamic proto, it will add this print person to the prototype space. But after that, when I create a second object from it, a second person, it would have already created this function, so there is no need for creating this function. So here you're only creating this this function one time, when you first time you create the first object. So I'm gonna remove the method here, and here I can say the same way, JOHN John 23 California, and I can remove all this three. And if I do print person, oh, I need to, since I change everything, I need to also change the name of here and clean this, and I get this. I should say, I said city here, it's supposed to be state. That's what happens when you do copy paste a lot. So this is what it is. Now here, if I use this console log name in person1 and has its own property, I would get true for both, because I'm not adding the properties to prototype. That's why it's always have its own property. So this is a dynamic prototype pattern. Again, these are kind of funky name, you know, factory, dynamic property, dynamic prototype, and constructor pattern. Different patterns, but you have to use it as per your need. If you're just creating a simple object, you might just want to directly use the constructor pattern, right? But if you know that you're going to create, you know, literally many objects, then I think dynamic prototype suits the best in most situations. If you like this tutorial, please subscribe to my channel, like the video, and provide a constructive comment. And if you have a question regarding anything that I've covered in this tutorial, please feel free to actually email me or provide a comment. And if there is any topic that you would like to be covered, then just email me, and I will be able to provide a tutorial on that topic within a week or two.